I want to talk about the 2 chapters that you read, answer any questions that you have, kind of do a brief recap to make sure that we're all on the same page. Like I said a second ago, it literally and figuratively, the heat turns up in these chapters, things get a little crazy. And then we are going to, we'll do a little activity with that piece of paper that I asked you to have. Want to talk about the essay prompts that are on Classroom that you're choosing between. And then give you just a hot second to work on your character chart with your partner. That's
Wait, well, where did we put the questions?
there's a question on Google Classroom. It's under week of 20 to 24. It's at the very top. It says, what does it mean to repeat the past? Just a Google Classroom question. Hi, Gasim. Okay, give it like 1 more minute here. I still need to see responses from Gasim and Ethan. And yeah, Gasim, Ethan. Okay, I'm gonna ask that you turn your mic on so that you could just talk. If something pops up in your house that is causing like background noise, like your dog starts barking or your parakeet starts chirping or your younger sibling runs into your room screaming, then go ahead and mute for the sake of the group. But I'm gonna unmute all of you so that you can just kind of jump in and talk. But just be mindful if you're the one causing feedback or something like that. Looking at a lot of your responses, so I asked this question, what does it mean to repeat the past, and is that possible? Because that's a question that arises in chapter 6 between Gatsby and Nick, and Nick says you can't repeat the past, and Gatsby says, why, of course you can. And a lot of you, it looks like a lot of you are saying, actually, most of you brought up the concept of deja vu. What do you mean by that in terms of a way of repeating the past?
Like the concept of deja vu, it's like you've already been there, right? Like you've already felt that memory before, like it's already happened. So I think that's in a way repeating the past,
So, because I guess my understanding of deja vu is like, and maybe I'm totally wrong, it's like something that may or may not have happened, but you feel like it's happened before. It's like the thought that like maybe in another life you walked in this spot, and so you're like, oh, it feels normal again. So are you guys talking about like remembering the past, like reminiscing or like re-experiencing the past, like when you hear a familiar song or like smell a certain smell, things like that? I need some feedback, like audible feedback, or else this is not going to happen. Gasim?
Yes.
What do you think? Can we repeat the past?
I think it is possible to repeat the past because it's been seen plenty of times in history. So when things like that happen, I think it's pretty evident that we can.
So there's nothing new under the sun kind of way, like we as humans tend to kind of repeat our past mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Anybody disagree with that or have any further thoughts on that idea? What is different about how Gatsby means that though? When Gatsby says, I want to repeat the past, of course I can repeat the past. What is different about that kind of repetition that Gatsby wants compared to this like like human nature kind of falling into the same mistakes. What does Gatsby want?
I guess it means he wants to relive the same moments he has lived behind.
Yes,
So he
like
wants to relive the good things.
with who?
Daisy.
With Daisy. He wants it exactly the same. Like he wants to repeat it exactly as it was.
But at the same
and
time,
that
it wouldn't be possible because things change in people's lives.
what's changed in Daisy's life?
She's married, for one.
Married and
She killed a person.
okay, well there's
She has a
that.
baby.
Yeah, she has a child.
Yeah, she has
We
a
actually-
child. Yeah, we saw
see
her.
this. I'm sorry, Ethan, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good now.
We see that in chapter 7. Gatsby sees the baby for the first time, and it like kind of takes him aback. Because in his head, wait, a baby isn't part of the plan. It's supposed to be me and Daisy. We're supposed to go back, relive our whole lives, get married in Louisville like we would have before if I hadn't been poor. And he sees this kid, and Nick notices that he's kind of like arrested by that. Like, wait a second, this is not part of my plan. What does Gatsby want Daisy to say really specifically?
That she doesn't love Tom.
That she doesn't love Tom, but not that she just doesn't love him now.
She never loved him to begin with.
She never loved him to begin with. Because for this, and you guys wrote about this well when you were analyzing those symbols in chapter 5, Gatsby's has crafted this image in his head of how things have to go, of what his relationship with Daisy is going to look like. And we learn in chapter 6, he's even crafted his own image of who he is, right? Like he's this kid from nowhere with no money who has like spurned his parents and then literally recreated an image of himself. Had huge aspirations and beliefs about who he could be that did not match with his current circumstances, and he made it happen. But he's got this romanticized view of Daisy and of their life together and of his life, where he thinks he can enter initially into this high society that Daisy's a part of, that old money society, by just acquiring money, acquiring sophistication. He thinks it's all he needs, but it's not. His dream is too big for reality, right? And so he has this thing in his head that has to happen exactly the way that he has planned it. Daisy has to say that she never loved Tom, that she only loved him, that she's going to leave him, that they're going to go get married in Louisville, like literally repeat everything. And that's how it is in his head, and he cannot comprehend a different reality than that. And you guys talked about this again with those chapter 5 things of the significance of the green light, and that before it was this thing across the bay that he could not, the gap was wide. And then Daisy is there, and yet the gap is still wide. There's that simile about the moon and the stars, which in reality look close but aren't close. They're thousands of light years apart. And so things look like maybe they're starting to match up to this thing in his head, but in reality, it never really can. And we see that play out in chapter 7. In chapter 7. So just a brief recap of chapter 6, and if you have questions, please ask. That's where we learned the history of Gatsby, kind of where he came from. We learned that Dan Cody, that guy hanging on his wall, actually was he kind of met him by chance, and he worked for him on his yacht. He was supposed to get all of his money. He got cheated out of it. So Gatsby really is a nobody from nowhere who has crafted this whole new life for himself. And has believed that he deserves that life. Like there's a line where he says that he he quit college because he scorned the thought that he would have to work as a janitor to pay for it, and that was beneath him. When in reality, it's not beneath him at all. He has nothing. But in his mind, he's already elevated beyond that. So we get that kind of background. We also see Daisy and Tom come to one of Gatsby's parties, which is interesting. And Daisy, the text literally says that she's appalled by what she sees. She tries to kind of disguise that, but she's appalled by it. Why might that be so devastating to Gatsby? This idea that she doesn't like the glitz and the over the topness of what he's created. Why is that devastating to him?
All of it for her, right?
Yeah, right. He's done all this for her, and more importantly, to belong in her social class, right? He wants to be her equal. And when she looks around and sees all this stuff and is appalled by it, it's like it's low class compared to what she's come from. Like it's all, drunk people like hanging off of, like there's that one girl who they talk about how they have to dunk her in the pool all the time because every party she goes to, she just gets totally wasted. Like it's sloppy, it's over the top, and she doesn't like it. And to Gatsby, that he's like, that's devastating to him. So eventually he shuts the whole thing down, stops having parties, hires new servants that are way more discreet, because Daisy comes over in the afternoons. And that's where in chapter 5 we were like, are they having an affair? Are they not? And in chapter 6 it's pretty solidified that they are. Daisy is now officially cheating on Tom with Gatsby. So, did you guys have any questions about chapter 6 at all before we talk about chapter 7 briefly? Chapter 7 is what happens. Okay, you gotta jump in. I know that this text can be confusing, and some of the language is hard. That's why I've put some of those bookmarks up so you can kind of check yourself against some of those words that are difficult. Chapter 7 is a hot one, quite literally. So the temperature is oppressively hot, and that's when the weather is hot. Like think of the summer, maybe like imagine your air conditioning has gone out. Okay, how do you act when you're like just terribly hot and sticky and gross? Like how does that affect your emotions or your attitude? Are you lovely and pleasant and so patient with everyone?
I mean, it's hard to think sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it can just like be oppressive, like a wet blanket of humidity is the worst. I don't know about you, but like when I'm hot, like my patience is thin. Like I just like I'm way more explosive as a person. And it feels like a pin could drop and like everything can kind of blow up when you're that hot. And so that's kind of the environment that we have here. Is it's physically hot. So the physical temperature has risen, but the emotional tension has risen as well. And that comes into play because Daisy invites Nick and Gatsby over for lunch, because there's no great idea like having your lover over to eat lunch with your husband. Great one. Nick can tell something is different, like something is going to happen, maybe something has been planned to happen, and things do go down. So if we turn your books to page 119. Tom at this point has no idea that Daisy's having an affair. But this is the moment that everything changes at the top of 119. He's talking to Gatsby. Daisy's like, let's go to town, you know, being kind of flighty like normal. And she looks at Gatsby and she says, you look so cool. You always look so cool. And although in this moment of literal heat, okay, she's saying Gatsby looks cool in terms of like cool, but also cool in terms of like temperature. Tom speaks Daisy speak. Okay, he's been married to her for a while, and he gets what she's really saying here, and it's largely due to how she says it. It says that they have a hard time like taking their eyes off of each other, and Tom notices. And this is halfway down the page. It says she had told him that she loved him, and Tom Buchanan saw. He was astounded. His mouth opened a little, and he looked at Gatsby and then back at Daisy as if he had just recognized her as someone he knew a long time ago. And so this is kind of a huge shift. Before, Tom thinks he's in control of everything. He's got his wife, he's got his girl on the side, he can manipulate George Wilson at will. He's filthy rich. Like he thinks he holds all this power. And in this moment, he realizes that he does not, that there are things happening beneath his line of vision that he did not catch. And so we start to see him kind of floundering there. It goes on and says like his temper cracked a little. And in the meantime, there's all of this, like the tension's rising, and Daisy just wants to escape. And we'll see that again and again. She just wants to get out. So tensions are rising in the house. Daisy cries, let's go to town. Go to New York. And things just get more and more tense. Tom realizes that Jordan and Nick have kind of known all along, which only makes things worse. He's realizing that he was kind of taken advantage of in ways that he didn't think was possible. They drive into New York. Gatsby and Daisy go together in one car, in Tom's car, and this is important. And Tom, Nick, and Jordan drive in Gatsby's yellow car. So on their way to New York, Tom is in the yellow car. They stop to get gas in the Valley of Ashes. Who owns the gas station? George Wilson, thank you. So they stop there to get gas. Everything's just like super, super tense. George is like really sick for some reason. And we come to find out that he's come to realize that his wife is having an affair with someone. At the top of page 124, Wilson says, I just got wised up to something funny these last 2 days. That's why I want to get away. That's why I've been bothering you about the car. So he wants to buy this car off of Tom. He's realized that his wife has been fooling around, but he doesn't know quite with who. And it's physically making him ill. Like he is actually sick over it. And so in this moment, it's kind of ironic because both Tom and George are in the same boat. Whereas before, Tom would never have considered himself connected to George in any way. But it's also interesting here because Myrtle is watching, and she looks out the car, and she's out her window and sees the yellow car, and sees Jordan in the car, and assumes that Jordan is Daisy, because Myrtle's never met her, she's never seen a picture of her, but she assumes that Jordan is Daisy there, and it says that there was a jealous terror in her eyes. As she looked out the window there. So Myrtle, at this point, has seen Tom driving a yellow car. So important to know. They get to New York. They like go up to this kind of hotel room to hang out, even though it's super hot. And the tensions just keep rising and rising until eventually Tom just kind of like calls Gatsby out. He starts asking him all these questions about his past, trying to kind of back him into a corner. And then at the bottom of 129, he says, what kind of row are you trying to cause in my house anyhow? Like, okay, I see what's happening. And Daisy, I think this is interesting here, how Daisy's response. Those of you who have Daisy in the character tracking could really dig into this. She says, if they were out in the open at last and Gatsby was content. This is bottom of 129. He isn't causing a row. Daisy looked desperately from one to the other. You're causing a row. Please have a little self-control. Self-control, repeated Tom incredulously. I suppose the latest thing is to sit back and let Mr. Nobody from Nowhere make love to your wife. So Daisy's initial reaction here is, no, tension, let's calm it down. Nope, nothing's happening. We don't need to have a row here. But everything's out in the open, which is what Gatsby has wanted this whole time. He wants Daisy to say what he's planned her to say. He wants to make the cut. He wants to start living this reality, this thing that he's dreamed up in his head. It's interesting too, if you look at that line again, I suppose the latest thing is to sit back and let Mr. Nobody from Nowhere make love to your wife. What bothers Tom more? The fact that his wife is cheating on him, or the fact that his wife is cheating on him with a Mr. Nobody from Nowhere? What was that?
You may want to speak a little louder.
I don't know who's talking. What bothers Tom? Is it the affair, or is it the fact that it's Gatsby?
The fact that it's Gatsby.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So if you go on to read that paragraph, like he's less offended at the idea that Daisy would cheat on him than the fact that she would cheat on him with somebody who doesn't even have money. Davis just popped in. Hi, Davis. Wait, there he is. Hi, Davis. We're talking about chapter 7. Okay, going down there on page 130. Daisy saying, please, let's all just go home. Why don't we all just go home? I don't want to do this. Never mind. Let's just shut it up and forget that it happened. Gatsby says, your wife doesn't love you. She's never loved you. She loves me. She never loved you. Do you hear? She only married you because I was poor and she was tired of waiting for me. It was a terrible mistake, but in her heart, she never loved anyone except me. This is what he has been playing in his head for 5 years. This is his reality. Poor Nick and Jordan are like, yeah, we should not be here. And they try to inch out, and Tom doesn't let them. Every time Tom talks to Daisy, Gatsby kind of responds for her. Tom says, you're crazy. Daisy loved me then, and she loves me now. And what's more, I love Daisy too. This is the bottom of 131. Once in a while, I go off on a spree and make a fool of myself. But I always come back, and in my heart, I love her all the time. And Daisy's response to that, which I think is all of our response to that, is, you're revolting. Like, how dare you say that you love me when you go off and have all these little sprees all the time? So we see Daisy kind of having this internal battle between kind of like comfort, which is to kind of ignore the problem, squelch it, which is what she's been doing this whole book, or to stand next to Gatsby here. Gatsby says at the top of 132, Daisy, that's all over now. It doesn't matter. Just tell him the truth, that you never loved him, and it's all wiped out forever. So back to this idea of you can't repeat the past. This is part of Gatsby's, in order to repeat the past, she has to wipe all this out. And she wipes all this out by saying that she never loved him. And she says it, but it says that she says it with reluctance. And then Tom starts saying all these memories that they have. You didn't love me here. You didn't love me here. What about when I carried you over these puddles? You didn't love me here. And Daisy finally says, oh, you want too much. I love you now. Isn't that enough? I can't help what's past. I did love him once, but I loved you too. And Gatsby like has this like blink moment, like, wait, this, you loved me too? That's not part of this plan. The words seem to bite physically into Gatsby, and things just keep getting more and more tense. Gatsby's insisting that Daisy's leaving. Tom's like, oh no, she's not. And Daisy just says, can we please go home? So Daisy's not taking a side here at all. She just wants out of the tension. She wants to avoid the problem. And at the bottom of page 133 is where everything's confirmed that we've been suspecting this whole time, that Gatsby's made his money as a bootlegger, so selling alcohol illegally. It's how he's made all his money, that he's involved with some pretty sketchy people, that he's got something in the works that's supposedly even sketchier. Finally, Daisy says, please, Tom, I can't stand this anymore. And on top of 135, it says, her frightened eyes told that whatever intentions, whatever courage she had, were definitely gone. And Tom knows that Daisy's not going to leave him at this point. And so he sends her home in the car with Gatsby. I think he realizes that his presumptuous little flirtation is over. And then in the midst of all this, Nick goes, oh, hey, it's my birthday today. I just turned 30. And it feels strange that he would interject like that. And it feels random. But like this whole time, Nick has been so wrapped up in everybody else's stuff, so wrapped up in Gatsby's stuff and Daisy's stuff and Tom's stuff and Jordan, that he's like completely lost track of himself. And so even to the point of forgetting his own birthday, forgetting his 30th birthday. And so he leaves with Jordan and Tom in the blue car now. Gatsby got back in his car with Daisy. And at the top of 136, it says, so we drove on toward death through the cooling twilight. So Nick is reflecting on, hey, I'm turning 30, I'm getting older. So he's saying here, we drove on towards death in terms of like age, like I'm just getting older. Every day I live, I'm closer to dying. But they also are literally driving towards death, even though they don't know it, because of what happens with Myrtle. So we see that the yellow car came through, did not even stop. She runs out in the middle of the road and gets hit and is killed pretty instantly. And then Tom has to make he's very, very clear to say, hey, my car is blue. I drive a blue car. That car was yellow. Because Wilson saw him in a yellow car earlier that day and made that connection. And so Tom, some of you made note of this in your thing that you turned in last night, that Tom's first instinct here is to cover his own back, is to make sure that he is protecting himself. But on the drive home, we do see that he actually is upset, really upset, and is crying about Myrtle's death. All right. And then at the end, we see Gatsby in the yard watching. He's convinced that Tom's going to do something to Daisy. So he's kind of keeping watch in the yard. Nick at this point is completely fed up with Gatsby. He assumes that Gatsby is the one that killed Myrtle. But we learn that was actually Daisy who was driving. Although Gatsby's willing to take the blame. And so even in his head, Gatsby's still thinking, Daisy chooses me. This can still work out. And yet Nick sees through the window what looks like Tom and Daisy conspiring together. And that's kind of the last image that we have of them in the chapter of, he says that they very clearly seem like they were on the same team. And so despite everything that happened that day, like they still kind of come back to each other here at the end. So a lot happened there. I know that was a lot of words. Any questions, thoughts, epiphanies on chapter 7 there? he was going to die.
It was a hot one.
Yes, it was. Quite literally. Proof that heat will make you crazy. Were you surprised to find out that Daisy was driving?
I didn't think about that.
You did? You considered that as an
I
option?
didn't. I
Oh,
didn't.
okay. Yeah. So we'll see how this kind of all plays out. You guys made some predictions. A lot of you guys are saying, like, I think Tom will retaliate against Gatsby, like, out of revenge. That was a big prediction. Maybe Wilson will retaliate. Daisy just seems to be conflict avoidant at all costs here. So we'll see what happens there. But here's what I want you to do, and we can do this really quickly. Grab that piece of paper that I asked you to have with you. Just it could be scrap paper, whatever. And in the middle of that paper, I want you to draw like a big circle. This is my big circle. Okay, just a big circle in the middle of your paper. And what you're gonna do is we're gonna make a pie chart of blame. So Myrtle has just died, and we know that Daisy full on hit her with the car. But who is all to blame for Myrtle's death? So we're gonna make this like a pie chart, like where you give different percentages to things. So what I want you to do is to divide the pie chart by character in terms of who gets the most blame for Myrtle's death. So just if you want to write this at the top of your paper, it's the names of the characters. You've got Daisy, Tom, Gatsby, Wilson, and then you could throw Nick and Jordan in there too. You could even throw Myrtle herself in there. So just really quick, kind of try to divide that circle into different pieces, like a pie, of blame. So who deserves, 50% of the blame? Who deserves 30, 75%? So let's take like 2-3 minutes and do that, and then we'll talk about it, okay? I'll make my own little chart too. I think the math adds up. When you are finished with your chart, will you put like one of those little symbols next to your name? Like whether that's like the raised hand or the coffee cup or something like that. So I know. Give you another minute or two. Remember, just put a little symbol next to your name so that I know when you're done. Oh, okay. Thanks, Kasim and Ethan. I see you. You should have, it should be over on like the participant side. Okay, Ryan, thanks. Awesome. Okay, great. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you guys into little smaller groups here. Those of you who have your camera off, you're gonna have to turn your camera on so that you could show. I'm gonna show you, well, actually I'll have you guys talk about yours and then I'll show you mine. So I'm just gonna divide you into, let's do 3 rooms here. In your room, show your people your pie chart and explain why you gave them that percentage. I'll pop in, so make sure you're staying on topic. Rooms are open, so you can go in. Okay, Ethan, you have to, oh wait, never mind. Ethan and Sarah, you have to join it. Ethan, you got to click it on both, buddy. Okay. Oh, y'all, you got to turn your cameras on. So
yeah, you know how I have 2, so like I need to join this pod. Like I need my other.
See. Okay, I'm gonna join you. I'm gonna join you to breakout room 1. There we go. It should work now.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. Yay! Oh man, I missed the hoodie.
That works.
Let's see.
All right, guys, what did you all get?
All right. Well, mine is majority of it's Gatsby because like it's his car. I think it was like more so his decision of probably taking that route home. And like I had Daisy too as like the second most.
How much, like what percentage did you give to Daisy and Gatsby?
I really didn't do percentage.
Oh, can you show it to us so we could see?
Yeah. Can you see it well?
You should bring it up closer to the mic or to the camera. Okay, yeah.
What you got, Ethan?
Nice. Well, I got 55% Tom, 30% Gatsby, and 15% Daisy because she kind of killed her. So, like, I had to put her in the mix. I guess I put 30% Gatsby because, like, if it wasn't for this affair, this probably wouldn't have happened. But at the same time, Tom was also having an affair with Myrtle, which if he didn't have that, things would also be different as well. And maybe Daisy would be actually more trustworthy towards Tom and more loving towards.
Great discussion in this room.
Well, we kind of finished.
There's no way. You were in here for like 30 seconds.
We all basically agreed on the same like amount of blame that was to be put.
What is it?
Like a lot of it was Daisy, then some of it was just Gatsby, and then a little bit of it was Myrtle.
Why Myrtle?
Because she was the one that ran out in the road.
Okay, so she's gotta take some ownership for her own actions. What percentage did you give to Gatsby?
Give like a quarter of it maybe because he does.
Okay. Okay, and then what? How much is Daisy?
A good amount.
So like Daisy would be maybe like over 50%.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. I'm gonna check it in the other room, and then we'll all come together. Sorry, it's just the 2 of you. I took out Ethan's mic and. Oh, Ella, you're frozen. What did you guys say?
We kind of said the same thing.
Yeah, we kind of said the same thing. Like, Myrtle is mostly to blame because she ran out into the street. And then Daisy is guilty, like, by association because she hit Myrtle, but, like, it couldn't have been helped, like Gatsby said. And then Gatsby and Tom are kind of, like, both equally guilty because they were the ones that made her, like, anxious, and that's why she wanted to drive. And then I think Mr. Wilson is kind of partly to blame, too, because he was the reason that Myrtle ran into the street.
Good. Okay. You're making me rethink my own chart here. I like the Wilson point and the Gatsby point about how she wouldn't have been so frazzled if he hadn't been so insistent. Good points here. Okay, interesting. I might change my chart. Okay, I'm sending you guys all back to the main session. Welcome. Okay, we're almost all back. Missing others. Okay. So some of you guys made me rethink my own chart. I like some of the points that you guys made here. Most of you gave Daisy blame. All of you gave Daisy blame. A lot of you gave Gatsby a significant amount of blame. Some of you blamed Tom. Some of you didn't. This is kind of how mine worked out here. I blame Tom the most. I put him at 45% because just because of his, like, the ongoing affair with Myrtle in the first place has, like, caused all that tension between Myrtle and her husband, has made Myrtle's husband sick, which is what makes him lock Myrtle in the room, which makes Myrtle go a little bit crazy, and, like, have this wild jealousy here. So I put a lot on Tom there, also for making Daisy pretty nervous. I blame Daisy as well, but because she, physically hits her with her car. But I think Ella's group convinced me that I should be blaming. I should put some of that blame on Gatsby because he's the one that made her so frazzled, that made her drive irrationally in the first place. A life lesson: if you're emotionally disturbed, don't drive. Okay, just don't, and don't drive fast. You might hit Myrtle with your car. You don't want to do that.
I mean, unless you want to kill someone.
Ethan, no. Nope. And then I had 30% of the blame on Myrtle herself, just because, like, she chose to be unsatisfied with her life from the get-go, which drives her to Tom, which ultimately drives her out into the road. And so I think there's some blame that lies at her feet as well, just in terms of if she had chosen to be satisfied with the life that she had, instead of being bitter about that, then she wouldn't be dead. So those are my thoughts there. Okay, next week we're finishing the book. So you don't really need to think much about this right now, but I want to put this in your head. And actually by tonight, I'm going to ask that you select an essay topic. So on Google Classroom, I have posted essay topics as like a question. Some of you have already done it. There are 4 options. You could, and this is the whole point of why I've been having us work on that character chart, because pretty much all of these prompts have to do with characterization. The first one talks about analyzing the female characters in the book, Daisy, Myrtle, and Jordan. So focusing on the 3 of them and then discussing what Fitzgerald is saying about women in the text. The second one talks about Tom Buchanan and Wilson, comparing and contrasting them. The third one talks about the idea of blindness in the novel, of people choosing to see and not see. You could talk about the eyes and things like that. The fourth one is about the green light. And then the last one, I say, if you have a different idea, you can submit it to me privately. But this is kind of where we're going to be walking over the next couple weeks after we finish the book. We're going to kind of take this in bite-sized chunks, but we need to write a literary analysis essay before the end of the year. And I know that's not y'all's favorite thing, but I'm hoping that I can break that down and make it easier. So all I need you to do for tonight is to choose which prompt is most interesting to you. If there's one that you want to, if you'd rather branch out on your own, that's fine. Next week, we're going to focus on creating a thesis. I have some videos for you to help you with that. And then I can help tweak and guide that process with you. And then we can start actual writing and conferencing and things like that. So you need to select that essay topic. And then please be updating that character chart. It does not look any different from when you got on last week when I made you work on it. So there should be a lot more happening there. And the more that is there, the easier this writing process will be for everyone. So everyone, please contribute, okay? Any questions about that?
For that character chart, how much are we supposed to put in like a box, like a quote or with an explanation? Is that it?
Like, are you talking how many quotes?
Yeah.
Enough to do a good job. Like, so for example, right now we only have, for Gatsby, we have, like, we've learned a lot more about Gatsby since chapter 4, right? We've learned a lot more about Nick, a lot more about Daisy since chapter 4. Right now, the only quote we have for Daisy is the quote she makes about her daughter, about how she hopes she'll be a fool. So your characters should be pretty equally represented across the novel. So like what you know about Gatsby now is different from what you knew about Gatsby the last time you worked on that. So in terms of like his vices and virtues, what he wants, you know way more about that now. So I don't have like a specific number.
Okay.
Because frankly, for Gatsby, you have more to say than you might have more to say about him than about like Meyer Wolfheim. But although Meyer will pop back up, so you'll still have stuff to add for him. But just make sure that you've got a full picture of who this person is. That's kind of the goal. Okay? We're going to do this together, and you do not need to be afraid. How many of you guys are coming out to school tonight?
What?
You guys coming to school tonight for the drive-through?
Oh, the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Right.
Good. You should. I will be there. I will wave at you from a socially distanced distance. And I will
We'll
smile.
see. We'll see.
Yeah, you should. It'd be fun. Okay, guys. Any questions that I can answer for you? Any questions about what we talked about today? Any questions about choosing an essay prompt? Any of that? Okay. Hey, if you're ever feeling overwhelmed or confused about this, you have to reach out to me or else I'm not going to know. Okay. So you're not bothering me. It's not like I've heard that excuse from people that they don't want to bother me. You're not bothering me. Just reach out to me with questions or concerns and I will help you the best that I can. Okay. It's good to see your faces today. David, good to see your face. All right, guys, have a really good Friday, okay? I hope to see you tonight. There we go. Okay, I hope to see you guys tonight, all right? Reach out to me with any questions. It was good to see you. We're so close to finishing. Okay, all right, I'll see you later. Have a great week and weekend.